right? So we're down here in Nice for the very first time, you know, for this IRONMAN World Championship.
But the nature of this course is making it exciting.
You're on a challenging course like this, riding flat out.
Athletes being forced to choose where they lay down the power.
We get to those longer sustained climbs, up these hills, pushing the downhill. Those types of rides can really drain the legs. We're just gonna have to see who's looking good, who's powering away.
This very challenging 112-mile full-gas bike course makes its way from the Nice shoreline up through the outskirts of Nice and through beautiful hillside villages. About 25 miles in, the athletes hit a big climb where things can really separate. They'll navigate small, winding roads as they tackle more climbing and some very technical descents on the way back towards Nice. While the views of the surrounding maritime Alps are truly breathtaking, you can't rest or lose focus for a moment on this course, which has a net elevation gain of nearly 8,000 feet.
We had a pretty good sense that as soon as you hit that first climb, there were going to be some fireworks. There was like a 12% grade. Clement Mignon and Sam Laidlow kind of came through and they just like took off.
But it's all Clement Mignon right now from France, leading France's Sam Laidlow, second place in the 2022 VinFast IRONMAN World Championship.
Yes, I know it was the perfect moment to be at 100% to do a gap.
Watch Sam Laidlow roll through. What a move to take first place away from Mignon, but not without a couple of quick words.
When I passed him, I said to him, let's give it a go for 30 minutes, like, let's ride hard. I saw an opportunity, and he's a good friend, you know, it's like we knew our strengths. We figured that if I did the flats pretty much, and he did the descent, that would work well. He's very, very good on the descents, and comes from a motocross background, so he just like, basically just not scared at all.
Everyone's fairly fresh at that point, so at that point I was just telling myself, you know, be patient. I saw them pass, and I decided not to go, even though I was feeling comfortable at that point. The entire ride, actually, you're telling yourself, there's still a marathon. You still have to keep a bit of energy.
Yeah, I was looking around and I saw obviously Marcus Ditlev. I saw Peter Himmerich, a bunch of French guys. I saw that there is the potential of having a strong chase group. I tried to form the alliance between those guys, have them working together with me to chase down the first pack.
Someone who hasn't been afraid to really go for it early in the ride is Magnus Ditlev. He has been able to bridge back up towards the front.
So there is like the flat part along the promenade and until the first twisty and very steep climbs, and I used that part to get back up to the group, and then I had to kind of overtake close to 10 athletes, I would say, before, which was pretty difficult in the small, narrow roads. So, and then we started the main climb, and I could see Jan already there.
It was somehow strange because I was holding really good numbers in the beginning of the climb. The first little pinches still got dropped, but I was expecting to lose some time and hemorrhage a bit of distance. Held my numbers up the long climb, knowing that that's what I've got. and I need to play my cards later on the bike.
A lot of the guys here are keying off of Jan Frodeno and are super focused on beating him in his final race. It's their last shot at taking down the GOAT. Yes, there's definitely some ego at play, but these guys admire Jan so much. Giving their best effort today is like a sign of respect to him.
The entire pro field is kind of like wishing Jan the win in some ways, but at the same time, like we're as competitors, so we don't want him to win.
He's still racing at the top of his game in his 40s, and he's one of the men to beat, and you know that if it's his last race, he's going to be in top form for it, and he's going to want to go out with fireworks behind him.
Jan Frodeno is like a rock star in Germany. He's been the Sportsman of the Year for 2 times, beating all the athletes from other sports.
So thank you very, very much.
Jan was one of those athletes that kind of elevated the whole sport for us professionals with his performances. He's been winning since 2008. He has all the titles. We kind of all strive to be at his level and have his level of professionalism.
The amount of intensity he brings to every aspect of his life is something that I'll probably take away. Whether that be food, diet, recovery, equipment choices, demanding the best out of his sponsors, demanding the best out of his team, and just not accepting mediocrity.
Done, buddy.
I think to everyone's dismay, even perhaps from his competitors, we start to see Jan slipping back.
Then it was real strange as I got over the top. I just didn't have it. And then, yeah, I got caught by the next group, which was weird, you know, the kind of things I just hadn't quite anticipated simply because I was prepared well. You know, I came here with some really good numbers, let's just call them that. And then I have to be honest, mentally, it was hard.
The last epic one. It's gonna be a long day for me. You gotta send it. I tried.
When I rode past him, I could see that he was not having the day he usually has, which was, yeah, it was sad to see, and I really hoped that we could have a great battle. So, but then I continued, and I just, yeah, went to work.
When Magnus came by, that was really good to have him. Kind of kept a solid pace, especially on the flatter portions. He was going quite fast.
Athletes also have to keep their focus, to keep their noses clean when it comes to drafting. They always have to keep 6 bike lengths between themselves and the athletes in front of them, and are only given 25 seconds to make a pass. Unfortunately, Bradley Weiss falls victim to this delicate balance and will have to serve a 5-minute penalty.
"70 miles in, just before a series of technical descents, Sam and Clement are still out front.
It's always motivating when you have 2 French guys leading the world champs, and especially when the French have never won it. I knew we were pushing it on the limit of what I thought was possible, maybe.
Clement has started to fade. He can't keep his nutrition down, which spells big trouble.
I was not good because no energy with any gels, so it was difficult. And Sam was very it was very amazing because he continued on the same pace.
I was motivated to keep the gap to Magnus quite low, and you know, I have an idea in my mind of how much time I can run down those guys, and Magnus Ditlev, if he attacks, for me, like, it doesn't make sense to try to hold on for ages. Obviously, you don't let him just right away. You stick with him for 5 to 10 minutes, and then you see that you can settle into your own rhythm again. But yeah, I think you have a certain amount of matches you can burn, and you have to be really sensitive how often you can go over it.
Meanwhile, everyone is wondering the same thing. Where is Cam Wurf, and when will we see him pull up? If they know Cam, they know he's on a hell-bent mission to get to the front.
He hits the gas straight away. He's doing 50k an hour, and if you want to kind of stay in touch, well, you're gonna have to push really hard too. It's crazy to think, like, in the first 45 minutes, you're already making up like 25 spots or something like that, which is pretty cool.
I thought about the whole time on the bike was, even when I heard the gap to Sam going out, was just try to get there. You know, recover a little here, smash this climb, go bomb down the descent as hard as you can. Do everything to try to get back to the front and try and give yourself a chance to win this thing.
And the blue and red there coming to the front, and when he goes to the gutter, that could make things very difficult for the peloton. And Ineos now putting the pressure on, and that could be a split. If there are some crosswinds, we haven't had an indication of that, but they're going so quickly at the front.
I've always loved doing a lot of exercise, a lot of different sports, so I guess triathlon's sort of the perfect one for me. I mean, now I'm doing triathlon and racing, and, you know, one of the best teams in the world in cycling, but I've always loved doing a lot of different things, obviously. I mean, if I could ride a horse, I'd do pentathlon, but I don't really enjoy riding horses.
We're looking at one of the favorites for this race is a professional cyclist. And he's on one of the biggest and most successful professional teams that we've ever seen in pro cycling. And he's here racing the IRONMAN World Championship.
Yeah, I mean, I'm incredibly privileged to be on, you know, a member of the Ineos Grenadiers cycling team, but I'm not there to make up the numbers. When I'm available, you know, the team will send me to some of the biggest races. It's not like when I show up, oh, Cameron, you're just a triathlete, so you just do this stuff. You know, you're part of the team, and I'm expected to perform and expected to do my job. I love being surrounded by top people in every single aspect of my life. I love seeing people achieve, and I, you know, try and learn as much as I can from that to feed my own success. This year has been much more like we pictured, you know. Getting called into races a bit less, but bigger races. I mean, I was doing a lot of smaller races just because we were short on numbers, whereas now it's more, okay, when we need you for a really important race, that's when we'll call you. I'm sort of there to let the big stars not have their routines interrupted. And I'm very happy having my routine interrupted to go and do Paris-Roubaix on Easter Sundays.
When I realized he was on a totally different level as a professional cyclist and a triathlete was
2 years ago in the Paris-Roubaix, there were 2 favorites, Mathieu van der Poel and Wout van Aert. And his job was to set the pace at the front into the most iconic section of that race that everybody knows is the toughest part. It's when it happens. It's when the race is split. It's where the champions are made. He was at the front going as hard as he could, and those 2 favorites weren't even there. So we're talking about the people that are like, man, these 2 guys may be the best the sport's ever seen. Cam was in the front going as hard as he could, and they couldn't keep up. And that is crazy. And not only did he finish the race, the next year, he did the same thing, wasn't quite as far up front, but was able to help his team as much as he could, finish the race. Dude went for a run. He went for a run. I'm gonna go run a half marathon at a pace that most people couldn't do fresh, and people thought it was like, you know, him showing off or whatever. But no, he's just like, what is gonna prepare me best for this world championship down the road? And it's me knowing what my legs feel like after the hardest bike ride that I could possibly think of. I mean, nobody's ever done that before, and it's amazing and hilarious, and it's spectacular.
So Cam Wurf is certainly a unique athlete, but I think a lot of times people get really almost hung up on his cycling background and completely forget that this is a guy who went to the Olympics, was a U23 world champion in rowing. This is a guy who's an amazing athlete, full stop.
You know, I won my last world championship 20 years ago, so it's like a 20-year anniversary as an under-23 in rowing. Yeah, I've been chasing that feeling for 20 years. I've had a journey in triathlon that I never imagined I'd have. If I think about achievements, yeah, okay, it's cool to win and all that stuff, but I remember, you know, you get to a point in your life where you see families with kids and you go, wow, that's success. You know, like, being able to have a wife and a child and have them grow up and be healthy, I mean, I'm just proud as punch with that. And so when, you know, people show genuine delight that we do turn up as a family, we do it as a family, and knowing that I'm not there as a sideshow, I'm there to try and win, that really gives me a lot of energy. I love that about the sport.
Yeah, I mean, a world championship in this sport is incredibly important to me because, you know, I've won Ironmans, I've been 5th in Kona, so in reality, it's really the only thing left to achieve. To me, after the World Championships, every other race is the same. I mean, they're all other races. This is, you know, I grew up as a kid rowing, and, you know, the big target was the World Championships or the Olympics. You know, it was always that pinnacle of the sport. So, you know, in my sporting career, you know, this is the one thing that, you know, I want more than anything else.
Cam Wurf is in 5th, 6 minutes down. Magnus and Rudy are still together, now 4.5 minutes behind Sam, quickly closing in on Clement. Jan has slipped back to a 10-minute deficit, now riding with Patrick Laidlow. No one seems to be closing on Sam, and we don't know if he's having the ride of his life or just setting himself up for a spectacular blow-up later on. I mean, this Ironman effort is sustainable for very few people, if anyone. At this late stage in the race, not only is it hard to focus, but the fatigue is really starting to show. The difficulty of this ride is finally known, and it is humbling. And you have to wrap your mind around now running a marathon.
Sam Laidlow is totally alone as he returns to town, and the French fans are just going bananas.
The whole last 10K or so, yeah, I would definitely ease off. Made sure I was composed and taking in all nutrition I needed, all the electrolytes I needed.
And this is our man from France, Sam Laidlow. Same as he did last year, he's coming off the bike in first.
His bike time of 4 hours, 31 minutes is beyond impressive on this course. but we don't know if his legs are going to rebel on the run from that incredible effort.
Whoa! Whoa! Whoa!
So if I drive this thing 150,000 miles.
Battery's covered.
1,000,000 miles?
Yep.
Whoa.
The word malama translates to taking care. We malama the land that feeds us. All of that energy that's being put in the ground gets transferred into food. It allows us as a people to thrive as well.
Learn how you can malama Hawaii at gohawaii.com/malama.
For 12 years, for 4,383 sunrises, across millions of mornings, we've been working to make one thing better. This, AG1 is foundational nutrition, a science-driven formulation to support whole body, brain, and gut health with just one of these, or one of these, once a day. Welcome to foundational nutrition. Welcome to AG1. Start at drinkag1.com.
Open up the sky, 'cause I'm coming up to you. So send down your wings and let them bring me to you. You know I'm standing at the station, ready to go. Oh, big old aeroplane, I'm trusting your soul. Get on up, big bird.
This is the section, Didi, where you start to hit those rollers on the main section of this course where the terrain changes quite a bit. You get a little sunshine, and you'll also start to find out if it's going to be a windy day. The wind can hit you early about this stage. Lucy Charles-Barclay doing what she's done many times before, lead out here in this full gas bike course, and she looks great. She does not look to be labored. She looks to be...
Lucy Charles-Barclay's game plan for the start of this bike race is playing out perfectly. As her chasers start the ride, she's totally out of sight and blazing her own pace.
The 112-mile full gas bike course winds briefly through the town of Kailua Kona before the long grind along the Queen Kahumanu Highway, touring the Big Island's Kohala coast. Once the athletes reach the harbor town of Kauai, they head inland a bit for the 6-mile climb to the town of Hawi, which is also the turnaround point of the bike course. After a screaming descent from Hawi, it's back onto the Queen Kahumanu Highway for the long, hot, and exposed return to Kailua Kona and transition 2.
If you look on paper, it doesn't seem that hard, but it's a combination of just everything.
Bike course is especially challenging because of the heat, the humidity, and the wind.
The wind is different to wherever it is windy in the world. It's like turbulence that changes throughout a straight bit of road. Doesn't make any sense.
This course just makes it feel even longer if you forget to do something or if your head's not quite in the right frame of mind. Accept the challenge of the island.
This bike is going to be very interesting.
No, but the fact that these quote-unquote bike runners have stayed this close is remarkable.
In the early miles on the ride, a small pack of 4 women, Lauren Brandon, Ailey Chura, New Zealand's Rebecca Clark, and the rookie, Taylor Knibb, are within a couple minutes of Lucy Charles-Barclay. A second, much larger chase group is just a few minutes behind them. Within this group are many women who pack a mighty bike run double punch. Daniela Reef, Kat Matthews, Chelsea Sodaro, Annie Haug, Lisa Norden, and Sarah True.
Yeah, I always try to start the bike quite hard to try and get away. I think if you're out of sight, you're out of mind. I knew how strong Taylor was on the bike, and I knew that she would be in that strong pack of swimmers, and if I could get a bit of a gap on her, then hopefully she would ride hard, leave everyone else behind.
Trying to stick with Lucy was not a plan at all. My plan was just to follow my watts. Well, so once I was onto the Queen K and in second place and a little bit separate from everyone else, so I was expecting it to be long and lonely. I was looking at my power, and I was riding well, and I also knew I was going into the unknown.
My strategy for the bike course, well, yeah, no holding back, I guess. I mean, the bike is my strength, and I think it's the only way I can win that race. I'm quite aware of that, and I'm also sure some people will try to stick with me.
I sort of took a cue off Daniela's tactic of how to get past the group and when to go, and then she attacked. Then you're off, then you're flying. You know, it's you, Daniela, and whoever else at the front, and we're going to be great.
It's a long day, and you can easily overdo it and then pay for it later. But it's also the World Championships, so if you're not in the front after the swim, you have to risk something in order to make it to the front.
I kind of knew that the gap wasn't getting any smaller to Taylor. I was actually starting to gain time on her, and I would say that aside from Daniela, Taylor was probably the other strongest cyclist in the field, and if she wasn't gaining time on me, then I must be riding really well.
The climb to Hawi turnaround is where things always get interesting. This long, sustained climb is a strategic spot to make a meaningful move. It's where things can split up. There's also a big psychological component to being at the front when you hit Hawi.
There's no better feeling at the turn in Hawi seeing your competitors, because they're climbing up and moving slowly and you're descending at speed. So I guess for them it's mind games, because you're traveling so much quicker than they are. You can have a quick look at who's in what group, who's where, and in your mind think how might that play out, which strong riders are together, and how might they work off each other.
Hawi is definitely a pivotal moment in the course. It's important to get to that place in a good position, not only literally, but you need to make sure you're fueled well. You need to make sure you haven't burnt too many matches, because the way back is really going to be when you start to tire, you start to, get hot. Nutrition becomes a big factor.
There have been some big movers up the climb to Hawi. Daniela Reef put in a surge and is now riding in third, 5.5 minutes behind Taylor Knibb, who trails Lucy by a little over 2 minutes. Laura Phillip has also worked her way all the way into the top 5, just a couple minutes ahead of another big mover, Els Visser, who gained 12 positions, moving from 20th all the way up to 7th on the climb. And riding with Els, there's Annie Haug. No one will want to see Haug in 8th position this deep into the bike ride.
It's always a bit mind-wrecking, because you always think about your own pace, but you have to be with the group, and then it's always on, off, and it takes a lot of energy. I was actually really struggling. I thought, everyone is riding really damn strong, and I knew I have a pretty good shape.
Okay, Annie's still here. Annie's still here. And obviously, yes, she did get dropped off the back there, but she was still within striking range.
Chelsea Sodaro is 12.5 minutes down when she comes through the Hawi turnaround.
You just don't know who's going to blow and who's going to go. We saw Kat already having a little bit of a blow. She's someone that we call as a favorite for a podium finish, possible win, and she's already struggling a bit.
Another person glaringly absent from the main chase group in Hawi is Kat Matthews. We were kind of scratching our heads wondering how she disappeared from the leaderboard.
It was just like I couldn't physically function anymore. All I could think about was that I felt awful, And not just like, you know, there was nothing psychological at that point. That's what I'm finding really hard to process is I was in best case position. I was with the best people, like everything was perfect and I was feeling great. And then suddenly it was like, can't function, need to stop, need water, can't grab the water bottles, like can't make a decision, can't put any effort in. It felt impossible for me to then cycle on.
Nutrition becomes a big factor in that last sort of 50 miles. It's nice because you're coming back home, but also it's the hardest part of the bike course because you're less fresh. That's when things start to fall apart. That's when like cream rises to the top, so to speak.
Back on the Queen K, the trio of Laura Phillip, Lisa Norton, and Jocelyn McCauley are riding strong together about 6 minutes behind Taylor. They've been expecting Daniela Ryf to join or surpass them, but so far she's unable to bridge up.
Normally I can really accelerate the second part of the bike. My legs at the moment, they're probably not strong enough to ride what I used to do, and that was hard. Like, you have to accept, okay, it's not like it used to be. Now I just have to deal with my reality at the moment, and I had to, you know, let the others go and just go my pace.
As we were watching Chelsea sort of move back down the track, it was 15 minutes. You're like, oh, that's kind of a lot. She would have to have just an unbelievable day. And then as she kept falling in, it was outside of 20 minutes. He sort of knew, okay, Chelsea's not going to win today, but what can Chelsea do?
Lucy Charles may seem to be in full command, but it's a long ride back to transition 2, and these final miles will expose any weakness, vulnerability, or the slightest misstep when it comes to fueling at this point in the race.
Questions here about that empty bottle cage under her saddle.
Another first for Taylor Knibb today, her first penalty. It's not for drafting, but for unintentional littering when she accidentally drops some bottles off her bike. She'll need to serve a 1-minute penalty before she starts the marathon, and that could totally shake up the race unfolding behind Lucy.
While the TV cameras may be pointed at the pro race, the age group storylines in Kona are equally inspiring. Adrienne Bunn wants to become the first woman with autism to complete the Ironman World Championship after standing at the finish line last year to watch the historic finish of Chris Nikic. She decided to take on Kona herself to change perceptions about individual potential. Looking at Lisa Kuntz, you would never know the hardship the 54-year-old mom from Arizona has overcome to be here today. She pushes through debilitating pain every moment of the day due to a degenerative neurological disease. And here she is, tackling the Ironman World Championship. Ironman has always been inclusive of all athletes, and there's no better place to see this spirit in action than the World Championship. There are no assumptions about personal limits or potential here. Every athlete tackles the same challenge and has the same opportunity to prove what is possible. 45 years after becoming the first Ironman champion on the shores of Oahu, Gordon Haller is racing to bring his story full circle. More than 4 decades later, this event is still a personal proving ground for Haller and thousands of others.